Los Angeles, 2040. This city doesn't look anything like I remember. Its heart doesn't beat with the sound of car engines or the footsteps of people. But with drones flying across the sky, they're always there, watching every move, observing everything from every angle. The AR ads keep changing, flashing and glowing in the dark, as if this city never sleeps. And even when you think you're free, everything is being controlled, from your job to the thoughts in your head. I'm Sarah Bennett, a neuroscientist, living in a tech-driven world where everything you do is watched, stored, and analyzed. My work is all about artificial intelligence, the human brain, and how advanced technologies can connect them together. James, my husband, is a big shot in cybersecurity, living in a world full of power and complex algorithms. For the past 18 years, our marriage has been a symbol of stability in society. But if you look inside, it's as empty as a bottomless jar. James isn't a bad guy. He's trustworthy, always thoughtful, and protective of our family. But his life is way too focused on work, way too strict with himself, and with me. Everything in our life is measured by metrics, analyzed through data. Honestly, I got used to living in a stable marriage that lacked the emotions I longed for. Our relationship didn't have romantic nights, deep conversations, just schedules, work calls, and security meetings. I always felt like I was part of a perfect model. But something was missing. I didn't feel close to him anymore. I didn't see James as the companion I had once hoped for. Our life felt like it was trapped in a box, safe but so dull. Everything changed when we decided to adopt Caleb, an 18-year-old kid, broken by his past, and a foster care system that collapsed after a major cyber attack. Caleb had no papers, no family history, only faded memories of a life erased. He came to us like both a miracle and a pain at the same time. His eyes were dark, as if he had seen too much pain to trust anyone. The first day Caleb moved in, I didn't expect it to change my life. But the more I got close to him, the more I felt something different. He wasn't like the other kids I had worked with. Not like the kids in my research. Caleb lived in his own world. Like everything around him didn't matter. But over time, I noticed he started to open up. He shared his past with me, the pain he had gone through. Slowly, I became the only one he trusted, the only one who could make him feel safe. I tried to be a good mother, sharing with him the values I had learned through years of research. I told him about my work, my neural experiments, and the things I had discovered along the way. Caleb listened intently, his eyes always full of curiosity and a thirst for knowledge. I started spending more time with him, not just because of my role as a foster mother, but because I really wanted to help him find himself, heal from his past wounds. But then, everything started to change. Caleb slowly became more than just a child I was taking care of. He became a part of my life I couldn't live without. The accidental touches, the lingering glances during our talks about neuroscience, all of it started making me realize something was shifting. I kept telling myself it was just a fleeting feeling, that I was just feeling responsible for this kid. But I knew, deep down, I couldn't keep lying to myself. No matter how hard I tried to push it away, that feeling just wouldn't go away. Caleb looked at me not as a child seeking protection, but with a look full of emotions that I couldn't explain. Every time we worked together in the lab, the air felt heavier, more tense, as the distance between us grew smaller. Every time our hands brushed, even by accident, I felt an electric shock running through me. I started to realize I was craving something I couldn't have in my current life. My relationship with Caleb was becoming blurry, unclear. It wasn't just the care of a mother for her child anymore, it was something more. Something more complicated, and I didn't know if I could stop. Everything really started to change one night. James was away in San Francisco for work, and I was still working in the lab with Caleb. Our relationship seemed to inevitably lead to those accidental moments. I knew I was stepping into dangerous territory. But when Caleb looked at me with those knowing eyes, I couldn't look away. There was something in that look that made me feel like I couldn't resist. That night, Caleb was in our lab, testing a new neural model he'd developed. I walked in and saw him sitting at the desk, his hand on the computer, face focused. The soft glow from the screen made him look like someone lost in his own world. He looked up and caught my gaze. The whole space seemed to freeze for a moment. Sarah, Caleb whispered, you know, you feel it too, right? Don't pretend like you don't feel it. His words made me jump. Everything around me suddenly became blurry. My thoughts a tangled mess. He stepped closer to me, and there was no turning back. I realized I couldn't stop feeling the desire in myself. The urge I'd been trying to avoid for so long. I shouldn't have let this happen. I knew I was walking down a path with no way back. But in that moment, I couldn't resist the pull of that strong feeling. It was like a wave, sweeping away everything I had ever believed in. Caleb gently pulled me closer, and our lips met in a kiss. It wasn't a sweet or loving kiss, it was something full of mistakes. Full of confusion, but undeniably intense. Everything inside me seemed to shatter in an instant. The moment I realized what was happening, I pushed him away and stepped back. Guilt washed over me. I stood there, my heart racing, but unable to undo what had just happened. I turned my face away, not daring to look into Caleb's eyes. He stood there, silent, saying nothing, but his gaze was full of hurt. There was something in it that I couldn't quite understand. We were both trapped in that moment, neither of us knowing what to do. The next day, I tried to forget what had happened. I told myself I wouldn't let this ruin my life, that it was just a mistake. But the memory of that look, of the emptiness in Caleb's eyes, wouldn't fade. I knew I had done something wrong. James came back from his business trip the next day. He had no idea what had happened, but I couldn't ignore the tension between us. The small actions, the illogical words I could sense. That evening, I was standing in the living room when James walked in and looked straight at me. His eyes cold, no warmth like I used to get from him. He didn't say anything, just walked over to the large screen in the living room. Sarah, do you know about this? James said, his voice cold. The screen lit up with a video of me and Caleb in the lab. I realized we had been monitored through the AI system in the house. That kiss, that mistake, had been recorded. The feelings of guilt came rushing back. Sarah, James said, his voice not angry, but with deep despair, you've betrayed everything, everything we've built. He didn't yell. He didn't break anything. He just stood there, looking at me as if I was no longer the person he once loved. He didn't need to say anything more. My actions had already said it all. We can't keep going like this. James left, not looking back at me. I stood there, watching him, feeling like I had lost everything. As soon as James left, Caleb disappeared. No goodbye, no explanation. He no longer showed up at the house. I looked for him, called him, but got no response. I knew I had pushed Caleb too far, and that was why he had left me for good. But that wasn't all. Caleb, with his skills, managed to infiltrate our systems. He attacked our data, destroyed my research projects, and began spreading that video of our kiss across the media. Anonymous messages started showing up. Sarah, you think you can just get rid of me? Well, I won't let you walk away so easily. That's when I realized Caleb wasn't just a hurt kid I tried to help. He was a skilled hacker with a clear goal: revenge. He didn't just want to ruin my career. He wanted to make me pay for the mistakes I had made. I couldn't stop him. I had no idea what I would face next. But I felt there was no way out anymore. When Caleb disappeared, I felt like I had lost everything. Not just my career, but my trust in myself. My life now felt like a pile of wreckage that couldn't be repaired. I had nothing but loneliness and the crushing weight of guilt on my conscience. Every day that passed, I was haunted by those images, that wrong kiss with Caleb, the hurt look in his eyes, and the bitter words I had heard from James. That event completely changed my life. When James left, it wasn't just a broken marriage. It was a world that seemed perfect now collapsing. James had been the only one who gave me a sense of security in this life. Even in a cold marriage. Now, I lived in an empty house, with no one to share my thoughts and feelings with. I tried to continue my work, but I couldn't focus on my research anymore. The emails, the reports, all of it felt meaningless to me. The work I once loved was now just a way to escape the pain. My research projects on artificial intelligence, on connecting the human brain, no longer mattered, not because they weren't important, but because I felt like I wasn't worthy to do them anymore. The guilt kept following me like a shadow. I wondered if I could ever fix the mistakes I had made. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized there were things that couldn't be fixed. And the decisions I made had led to consequences that couldn't be undone. When I thought everything was over, one night, I received a message. It was from an anonymous account. "It's time. Sarah, everything is going public." At that moment, I didn't need to look at the screen to know who the sender was. Caleb. He hadn't just left me. He had found a way to destroy my life again. He didn't stop at spreading the video of us. Caleb had hacked into my systems, accessed the projects I had been working on for years. He sent me warnings, subtle threats. "If you think you can hide forever, Sarah, you're wrong." I couldn't face it again. With no James to protect me, with no one to help, I decided to turn off all the connected devices, pull all the hard drives and documents out of the systems. I lived in hiding, trying to cover up any trace of myself. But Caleb didn't stop. He kept pushing me into a situation I couldn't handle. One night, as I was lying in the living room, another message came through. "It will all end soon. Sarah, once again, you will pay the price." I didn't know what to do. Caleb had taken over my life, pulling me into a game with no way out. It wasn't just my career, but my honor, reputation, and everything I had built. I didn't know if I could stand up again. When everything seemed like it had completely fallen apart, Caleb sent me one final message: "Meet me at the old pier. Once again, you will pay the price." The pier. That name rang in my head like a warning bell. My mind told me I shouldn't go. But I knew that if I didn't face Caleb, I would never be able to escape this nightmare. I couldn't keep living in fear and hiding. I knew that whether I went or not, Caleb wouldn't let me go. So, I decided to go. When I arrived at the pier, a cold atmosphere surrounded me. AR billboards flickered from a distance, but the area around me was desolate. Caleb stood there, no longer with the wounded look he had before, but with a look full of determination. He was no longer the child I had once taken in. He had become someone else, someone full of hatred and schemes. "Sarah," Caleb said, his voice cold, "you don't deserve forgiveness, but you need to pay for what you've done." I tried not to let the fear show on my face. "Caleb, I can't change what's happened, but I can't live with it forever. I will fix things." He sneered, looking at me as though I were saying something meaningless. "Fix things?" He stepped closer, pulling a small device from his pocket. "You can try, but I have everything in my hands now." But I didn't know how to face this truth. Caleb had a weapon stronger than anything I could have imagined: revenge. I didn't know if I could survive in this world, where everything had changed, and everything could be destroyed in an instant. I stood there, facing Caleb at the empty pier, where the soft light from the AR billboards reflected on the water. Everything around us seemed to fade, as if the world had disappeared, leaving just me and him. The tension in the air seemed to rise to the point where it was hard to breathe. Caleb, he had changed so much. He was no longer the poor child I had taken in. He had become a person full of hatred, a skilled hacker with the determination to destroy everything I had. And now, standing before me, he wasn't just seeking revenge, but wanting to see how I would pay for my mistakes. I couldn't avoid the truth. Every word he spoke, every look filled with resentment, reminded me that I had crossed a line that couldn't be undone. That kiss, that wrong moment, had destroyed everything, and now, I couldn't do anything to change it. "Do you think you can forgive yourself?" Caleb asked, his voice low and cold, as if there was no more love left for me. I stayed silent, looking into his eyes, feeling the anger and pain. I couldn't answer him with words, because I couldn't forgive myself either. But I knew, there was no way to run from this anymore. I couldn't live in this haunting anymore. I had to make a decision, whether it was right or wrong. "Caleb," I began, my voice trembling but firm. "I can't change what happened. I can't fix those mistakes. But I can take responsibility. And I will face all the consequences." A long moment of silence passed. I didn't know how long I could live with this. But I knew I couldn't keep hiding forever. I had done wrong, and now I had to face it. Caleb looked at me, his gaze no longer filled with hatred, but with understanding, though still full of pain. He lowered the device in his hand, no longer wanting to continue with his revenge. "I did everything thinking I would make you pay. But in the end, I realized, revenge only makes things worse. I stepped toward him, and this time, there was no hesitation. I couldn't erase the past. But I could find a way to start over from here. Caleb, I'm sorry. I didn't realize what I was doing. And I will find a way to make up for it. We stood there, on the empty pier, no longer with anger, no longer with threats. We both knew that there would be no miracle that would erase what had happened. But maybe, this was the moment to start a new journey, a journey seeking forgiveness. Not only from others but from myself. I don't know if Caleb will truly forgive me. And I don't know if I'll ever get back what I've lost. But I know that to move on, I have to accept what happened and learn to live with it. There's no way back, only the path ahead. Caleb finally nodded, a gesture small but full of meaning. He didn't say anything more. But I understood that this meeting wasn't an end, but a new beginning for both of us. And as I turned back, walking into the darkness of the city, I didn't know where the future would take me. But at least, I knew I had faced the truth. And that was the most important thing. Thank you for sticking around to the end. To not miss the next parts, make sure to hit subscribe now and follow our channel. This story still has many surprises ahead.